the legacy media is dying.
The media landscape has certainly changed over the last 2 or 3 decades. The internet has given news consumers more choice, more sources of news, and to some extent, a wider spectrum of opinion as well.
The legacy media writes, creates, and produces not for you, but for their industry to feed their own egos and bank balances.
Legacy media interview, everything is scripted, and you're never talking to a person. You're talking to the corporation. The legacy media types they're done. They're so done. It's happened so fast. I notice among young people that the legacy media, the big magazines, the newspapers, the TV stations, the radio stations for that matter, all of whom had a monopoly on this kind of information flow, are so dead to people under 30 that it's as if their death isn't even noticed. And that's fascinating. And yesterday, I interviewed Richard Tremblay, and is in his 80s, and he's a scientist who studied male and female aggression for 40 years. And he's won the criminologist's equivalent of the Nobel Prize and the Order of Canada, which is Canada's knighthood for all intents and purposes. We had a 2-hour conversation, and I thought afterwards, you know, I've only been able to have conversations like that in the highest quality graduate seminars, in the most elite universities, now and then. 2 hours on a single topic, covered in as much depth as possible, but someone who's a world authority. And now I can have that conversation with people, and 150,000 to 1 million people can have access to it instantly. It's like, I think God only knows what that is going to be the consequence of that. I was interviewed by a Wall Street journalist last week, and I asked him what he liked about podcasts, because he listens to them a lot, and he said, I really like to see where they're going. In a legacy media interview, everything is scripted, and you're never talking to a person. You're talking to the corporation, essentially. And I'm not being cynical about that. It had to be that way because bandwidth was so expensive. But now you can sit down with someone and you can risk exploration. Of course, that's what Joe Rogan has been doing so well for so many years. You can risk exploration. You can have two people having a genuine discussion about a complex issue. And so they're engaging in dialectical thinking. And if they're good at it, they're modeling it and pull people along on an exploratory journey and make it permanent. And that's completely revolutionary. That's never been possible before. And the next thing is you can take those conversations and you can chop them up into 30-second pieces, minute-long pieces, 5-minute-long pieces, 20-minute-long pieces, and each of those can find a specialized home that can attract millions of views. And so it's as if you could write a book and sell it by the sentence.
The interesting thing that I think I enjoy about podcasts, and a lot of audiences do as well, is that unscripted nature. But it's not just the fact that the topics are unscripted, it's the cadence and the timbre of the tone of the way that the conversation flows as well. If you struggle to work something out, if you're battling at the forefront of your own cognitive capacity to try and get something from brain to mouth, we get to hear. It's almost like a football match or a sports game. We're willing the person to get to the goal.
Absolutely. The players are trying to put something into the goal. Well, that's what you're doing when you're having a genuine dialogue. You know, it isn't necessarily clear what the goal is. It's more implicit because you're starting to make that more and more clear too. There has to be this continual reciprocity, and that requires you to attend very carefully to your guest and to listen. In 2 hours, you reveal your hand and everyone can see it. You reveal the weaknesses and strengths of your argument. You reveal the weaknesses and strengths of your character. Even if your character is flawed, like all of our characters are, you know, if you're engaged in something genuine, in a genuine move forward, you're forgiven for that, right? If you're actively rectifying your evident flaws during the discussion, people will forgive you for your flaws. But YouTube and podcast long form seems absolutely unforgiving of any falsity, as far as I can tell. I mean, sometimes we do some editing. There's two conditions under which we'll edit. One is just to edit out some technical glitch. We also allow our guests the option of not having something they said broadcast if they believe they've made a factual error or addressed an argument in a misleading way. That's a little bit more of moral quagmire, but our thought is that if we allow people that veto power to begin with, they're much more likely to be loose and to take risks in the exploration. And we've had to cut virtually nothing except 2 factual errors of a few seconds. But it's so interesting because in the comments section, if we ever edit anything, there's skepticism right away. And so that's another indication of how unforgiving the medium is with regards to falsity.
That's the thing, because when it's unedited, when it's a flowing conversation for a long amount of time, the precipice on either side, you are walking a tightrope, as you said. There is no opportunity to go away and check what you actually want to say and rewrite it in a script. It is riding the crest of now, because there's no way that you can hold up a persona for 2 hours straight.
I think you can make mistakes, but if you're bargaining in good faith, the audience will forgive you for your mistakes. But you're punished brutally if you're false.